welcome back to Friday Reads, where we help you find your next read. I'm Jill.
And I'm Julie, and if you followed us last week, we did read-alikes for lessons in chemistry, which got thumbs up from both me and Jill. And this week we picked another book that we both liked, and this week we are doing read-alikes for Remarkably Bright Creatures by Shelby Van Pelt. I know when I looked up that book, originally it was like for fans of a man called Irv. But this is a debut novel about a widow's unlikely friendship with a giant Pacific octopus. And Jill and I were just saying, who doesn't love a book with an octopus? And Marcellus the octopus actually gets his own chapters in this book. So the woman takes a job at the local aquarium, and she finally uncovers truths about her son's disappearance. So books related to this. What's your first pick, Jill?
So my first one is got an old lady in it. And a connection between a young and an old person, which happens in Remarkably Bright Creatures. This is called The 100 Years of Lenny and Margot by Marianne Cronin. It was published in 2021. Life is short. No one knows that better than 17-year-old Lenny living on a terminal ward. But as she is about to learn, it's not only what you make of life that matters, but who you share it with. Dodging doctor's orders, she joins an art class where she bumps into fellow patient Margot, a rebel-hearted 83-year-old from the next ward. Their bond is instant, and they realize that together they have lived an astonishing 100 years. To celebrate their shared century, they decide to paint their life stories of growing old and staying young, of giving joy, of receiving kindness, of losing love, and fighting the person who is everything. As their extraordinary friendship deepens, it becomes vividly clear that life is not done with Lenny and Margot yet. So, 100 years of Lenny and Margot.
I listened to that one. I like that one when I listened to it. My first pick is Harry's Trees by John Cohen. This was published back in 2018. The first thing you learn when you climb a tree is to hold on. But now it's time for Harry to learn to let go. 34-year-old Harry Crane, lifelong lover of trees, works as an analyst in a treeless U.S. Forest Service office. When his wife dies in a freak accident, devastated, he makes his way to the remote woods of northeastern Pennsylvania's endless mountains, intent on losing himself. So the woman in Remarkably Bright Creatures loses her husband. This gentleman loses his wife. But fate intervenes in the form of a fiercely determined young girl named Oriana. She too has lost someone, her father, and in the magical, willful world of her reckoning, Oriana believes that Harry is the key to finding her way back to him. As Harry agrees to help the young girl, the unlikeliest of elements, a treehouse, a wolf, a small-town librarian, and a very special book come together to create the biggest sensation ever to descend upon the endless mountains, a golden adventure that will fulfill Oriana's wildest dreams and open the door to a new life for Harry. So it's an uplifting tale about love, loss, friendship, and redemption.
And there's a librarian in it. Who's not going to like that?
You gotta love a book with a librarian and a very special book that helps the quest.
My next suggestion is Lily and the Octopus by Stephen Rowley. This was published in 2016, and it does have the relationship between a human and an animal, which in this case is Lily the Dachshund. This is a story of a man and his beloved dachshund. The magic of this novel is in the read, so the publisher doesn't want you to know too many details about it. But we can tell you it's a story about that special someone, one you trust and one you can't live without. For Ted Flassett, someone special is his aging companion, Lily, who happens to be a dog. Lily and the Octopus reminds us of how it feels to love fiercely, how difficult it can to let go, and how the fight for those we love is the greatest fight of all. So I do have to warn you, this is a dog story, and it probably does not have a happy ending for the dog. Unlike the octopus story, which does have a happy ending for the octopus. So, a little spoiler alert there. Lily and the Octopus.
My second pick is the Lonely Hearts Book Club, and this made the list because in this one, complex characters rediscover community and connection after closing themselves off after loss. So, Lonely Hearts Book Club is by Lucy Gilmore, and it was published in March of this year. Sloane Parker lives in a small, contained life as a librarian in her small, contained town. She never thinks of herself as lonely, but still she looks forward to that time every day when old curmudgeon Arthur McLachlan comes to browse the shelves and cheerfully insult her. Their sparring is such a highlight of Sloane's day that when Arthur doesn't show up one morning, she's instantly concerned. And then another day passes, and yet another. Anxious, Sloane tracks the old man down only to discover him all but bedridden and desperately struggling to hide how happy he is to see her. Wanting to bring more cheer into Arthur's gloomy life, Sloane creates an impromptu book club. Slowly, the lonely misfits of their sleepy contained town begin to find each other, and in their book club find the joy of unlikely friendship. Because as it turns out, everyone has a special book in their heart and a reason to get lost and eventually found within the pages. So this one ended up on my to-be-read list. So check out the Lonely Hearts Book Club, published earlier this year.
The cover is cool, too. My next one is Unlikely Animals by Annie Harnett. This was published in 2022. Natural-born healer Emma Starling once had big plans for her life, but she's lost her way. A med school dropout, she's come back to a small town of Everton, New Hampshire to care for her father, dying from a mysterious brain disease. Clive Starling has been hallucinating small animals as well as visions of the ghost of a long-dead naturalist, Ernest Harold Baines, once known for letting wild animals live in his house. The ghost has been giving Clive some ideas on how to spend his final days. Emma arrives home knowing she must face her dad's illness, her mom's judgment, and her younger brother's recent stint in rehab, but she's unprepared to find her former best friend from high school is missing, with no one bothering to look for her. The police say they don't spend much time looking for drug addicts. Emma's dad is the only one convinced the young woman might still be alive, and Emma is hopeful he could be right. Someone should look for her, at least. Emma isn't trying to be a hero, but somehow she and her father set in motion just the kind of miracle the town needs. Set against the backdrop of a small town in the throes of a really real opioid crisis, Unlikely Animals is a tragic comedy novel about familiar expectations, imperfect friendships, and the possibility of resurrecting that which had been thought lost. So, Unlikely Animals.
My third pick is The Brilliant Life of Eudora Honeysett by Annie Lyons. This was published in 2020. This had a 4.32 rating on Goodreads, so pretty popular book. So you can substitute a friendship with an octopus with a friendship with a 10-year-old girl in this book. So Eudora Honeysett is done with this noisy, moronic world, all of it. She has witnessed the indignities and suffering of old age and has lived a full life. At 85, she isn't going to leave things to chance. Her end will be on her terms. With one call to a clinic in Switzerland, a plan is set in motion. But then she meets 10-year-old Rose, a whirling pint-sized rainbow of color and sparkling cheer. All Eudora wants is to be left alone to set her affairs in order. Instead, she finds herself embarking on a series of adventures with little Rose and their affable neighbor, the recently widowed Stanley. There's afternoon teas, shopping sprees, trips to the beach, birthday celebrations, and pizza parties. While the trio of unlikely BFFs grow closer and anxiously await the arrival of Rose's new baby sister, Eudora is reminded of her own childhood, of losing her father during World War II and the devastating impact it had on her entire family. In reflecting on her past, Eudora realizes she must come to terms with what lies ahead. But now that her joy for life has been rekindled, how can she possibly say goodbye? So this sounded like a good one, too. The Brilliant Life of Eudora Honeysett.
So we had mentioned that the Remarkably Bright Creatures had chapters from the octopus point of view. And he was an interesting character. And he was a very smart octopus, used good language. If you have the chance to listen to the audiobook, I would highly recommend it. So I chose a book that has an unusual and kind of smart narrator. So this is Clara and the Sun by Kazuo Ishiguro. It was published in 2021. This has an unusual point of view of an intelligent being, like Remarkably Bright Creatures. This is from the point of view of an artificial friend, so a robot, basically. Oh. From her place in the store, Clara, an artificial friend with outstanding observational qualities, watches carefully the behavior of those who come in to browse and of those who pass on the street outside. She remains hopeful that a customer will choose her, but when the possibility emerges that her circumstances may change forever, Clara is warned not to invest too much in the promises of humans. In Clara and the Sun, Kazuo Ishiguro looks at our rapidly changing modern world through the eyes of an unforgettable narrator to explore the fundamental question, what does it mean to love? Clara and the Sun.
Well, and I had to throw in a nonfiction pick about octopus. So I have The Soul of an Octopus by Cy Montgomery, which was published in 2015. In pursuit of the wild, solitary, predatory octopus, popular naturalist Cy Montgomery has practiced true immersion journalism. From New England aquarium tanks to the reefs of French Polynesia and the Gulf of Mexico, she has befriended octopuses with strikingly different personalities. There's gentle Athena, assertive Octavia, curious Kali, and joyful Karma. Each creature shows her cleverness in a myriad of ways, escaping enclosures like an orangutan, jetting water to bounce balls, and endlessly tricking companions with multiple sleights of hand to get food. Scientists have only recently accepted the intelligence of dogs, birds, and chimpanzees, but now are watching the octopus to solve problems and are trying to decipher the meaning of the animal's color-changing techniques. With the author's joyful passion for these intelligent and fascinating creatures, she chronicles the entertaining, touching, and profound, and she has a growing appreciation of this mollusk as she tells each of the unique love stories. It's by turns funny, it's by turns entertaining, and it reveals what octopuses can teach us about the meaning of two very different minds. So if you loved the octopus in Remarkably Bright Creatures, you might want to explore more about them. So, Soul of an Octopus.
That's a good choice to read after
I had
reading
to
this
throw
book.
some in there. And then when I read about her different octopus that are in here, I'm like, oh yeah, that sounds good.
Because then you do get to know the octopus a little better in the book. Hey, that's a good choice. My last choice today is A Tale for the Time Being by Ruth Ozeki. And I chose this because it has an older person finding a relationship with a younger person. In Tokyo, a 16-year-old now has decided there's only one escape from her aching loneliness and her classmates' bullying. But before she ends it all, Nao plans to document the life of her great-grandmother, a Buddhist nun who's lived more than a century. A diary of Nao's only solace and will touch lives in ways that she can scarcely imagine. Across the Pacific, we meet Ruth, a novelist living on a remote island who discovers a collection of artifacts washed ashore in a Hello Kitty lunchbox, possibly debris from the devastating 2011 tsunami. As the mystery of its contents unfolds, Ruth is pulled into the past, into Nao's drama and her unknown fate, and forward into her own future. Full of Ozeki's signature humor and deeply engaged with the relationship between writer and reader, past and present, fact and fiction, quantum physics, history and myth, Tale for the Time Being is a brilliantly inventive, beguiling story of our shared humanity and a search for home. So, Tale for the Time Being.
Cool. My last pick is another friendship book, and this one is The Shell Collector by Nancy Nagel, published in 2021. 2 years after her husband's death, Amanda Whittier has 2 children to raise alone, an abandoned dream of starting a business, and a fixer-upper cottage by the sea, which is what sold me on this one. She has no room in her life for anything else and little interest in moving on after losing the man she loved. Paul Grant is a relative newcomer to the area, and his work with former military dogs needing rehab has been good for the town. Though he loved once before, he's convinced he's not suited for romance and is determined to find meaning alone through his work and role in the community. Widowed Maeve Lindsay was born and raised on Welks Island. Spirited, kind, and a little mischievous, she pours her life into the town, but she carries a secret that shapes her every move. Together, these 3 souls find encouragement in the most mysterious places and discover a love that's bigger than their pain, healing their wounded hearts in ways none of them could have hoped for or expected. So,
Wow. Well, we hope that we helped you find something to read if you loved Remarkably Bright Creatures. And if you haven't read Remarkably Bright Creatures, please do so, because it's very good. We both liked it.
Yep.
We hear a lot.
Thank you for watching our videos. Again, we've seen more views on YouTube, so thanks for that. And Jill always posts that on our Kimberly Public Library website, and you can link from there. You can find us on Facebook. And until next time, we thank you for watching.